Hello class and welcome to the final lesson of the course, where we will learn about the Chicana women's movement. The Chicana movement was sparked by the 1969 Chicano Youth Liberation Conference. At this conference, women began to incorporate themselves into the male-dominated discussions and rallied together to address feminist concerns at the meeting. They wanted to deal with not only issues of racism, but also sexism within their households. After leaving this conference, women went back to their communities as activists, and as a result, this signified the beginning of the Chicana feminist movement. In May 1971, the first National Chicana Conference took place in Houston, Texas. It was here that Chicana women first gained a platform for themselves and formally declared themselves as an integral part of the Chicano movement. In March of 1969, at the Denver Youth Conference, a workshop was held discussing the role of women in the movement. The women of this workshop stated it was the consensus of the group that the Chicana woman does not want to be liberated. This was one of the principal actions that sparked the Chicana feminist movement. Soon after this, women began to organize. In May 1971, over 600 Chicanas met in Houston, Texas for the Mujeres por la Raza conference. The two largest workshops held at this conference were Sex and the Chicana and Marriage Chicana Style. A survey was taken at this conference and showed that 84% of the women there felt as though they were not encouraged to seek professional careers and education was not considered important for Chicanas. 84% thought that there was not equal pay for equal work, and 72% felt that as though there was discrimination towards them in La Raza. Along with organizing women's caucuses and holding conferences, Chicanas also know that getting their words out there was important as well. In 1973, Encuentro Femenil, the first Chicana feminist journal, was published. This journal explores the sexism and racism facing Chicanas at the time. It also made distinctions between its movement and the Anglo-feminist movement. There were other important publications emerging at this time, such as the newspaper Hijas de Coatepec and a book of articles called La Mujer en Pie de la Lucha. Chicana feminism, which paralleled to the Chicana movement, helped the Chicana become recognized as a valuable asset in her community. A few prominent names in the Chicana feminism are Mirta Vidal, Ana Nieto Gomez, Marta Coterra, and Gloria Ansaldúa. There are many more that emerged from the feminist and Chicana movement in the 70s and 80s. The struggle for these women were not always easy ones. So what exactly encompasses Chicana social identity? A Chicana is a Mexican-American female who is raised in the United States. La Chicana has minority status in her own land, even though she is, in part, indigenous to the Americas and a member of one of the largest majority and ethnic groups in the United States. She is a woman whose life is too often characterized by poverty, racism, and sexism, not only in the dominant culture, but also within her own culture. Chicana social identity incorporates a political stance that confronts and undermines patriarchy as it cross-cuts forms of disempowerment and silence such as racism, homophobia, class inequality, and nationalism. It is important that we realize the reasons why the Chicana movement came about. Many Chicanas were unhappy with the way that they were treated within the Chicana movement. It is apparent that the Chicano men were making progress, but the women were not being credited for their hard work and determination. This is often what happens in today's society. The Chicana feminist movement is an attempt for these women to come together and make themselves equal to everyone in society. Chicana women, as well as every other woman, should be treated equally. Every day we see women who are looked down upon because of their gender, but Chicana women are often looked down upon because of their race as well. Chicana women claim that liberation will come neither from the Anglo women's movement nor the Chicano movement, but from a unique Chicana movement that works closely with or in conjunction with the movement, Chicano movement. Chicana feminism, also referred to as Chicanaism, is an ideology based on the rejection of the traditional household role of the Mexican American woman. It challenges the stereotypes of women across the lines of gender, ethnicity, class, race, and sexuality. Most importantly, it serves as a middle ground between the Chicano movement and the women's liberation movement. The theory of Chicana feminism is as follows. The oppression of the Chicana is intricate and arises from a multitude of domineering means. She is an ethnic minority, she is a woman who is universally oppressed by men, and her Chicano heritage exaggerates this male domination over women. The first type of oppression mentioned is due to ethnicity of the Chicana. The Chicano culture is politically and economically exploited by Anglo society. Chicanos are considered subordinate, dependent, and have been subjected to numerous accounts of genocide. Another type of oppression is due to gender. Women across the vast majority of cultures are considered subordinate and are universally oppressed by her male counterpart. In addition, there is also an internal oppression caused by the Chicana heritage. Some identify this as machismo and caused by the colonialization of the Chicano. Whatever the origin, it has a depreciating effect on the Chicana and must be addressed. The machismo is a term very multifaceted in its origins, definitions, and social and cultural implications. It is theorized that the repeated colonization of Mexico has taken the physical and spiritual power of its people away and has left the Chicano feeling weak. Because the Chicano has been unable to protect his people, brothers, women, and children from the violent conquest of his nation, he has developed a strong sense of masculinity as a compensation for his feelings of powerlessness. The same feeling of powerlessness continues to be instilled into the Chicano through his discrimination and oppression and the washing away his dignity and creating an aggressive and protective nature of his woman and family. Another derivation of machismo may result from the necessity to have and express a Chicano cultural and national identity. Machismo in this frame does not relate to his manhood per se, but to pride in his Chicano nation. It incorporates family values of responsibility as well as nurturing. The traditional role of the Chicana. She is perceived to be submissive, passive, under the command of the Chicano. Her roles are typically in the home and she is isolated from and ignorant to the world surrounding her. The Catholic Church is also another factor that perpetuates the roles of women as inferior and maintaining the family and sex roles currently in place. Through the idea of Marianismo, the Chicana is often seen as the Virgin Mary. She is saintly and motherly, a martyr, a virgin, a wife, and sex object. There are three descriptions of Chicana feminism. The first description is Chicana liberal feminism. This concentrates on the wants of the Chicana in order to improve the Chicano community, while also focusing on improving the status of women. The Chicana liberal feminist wants access to social institutions and employment. She develops awareness of the Chicana in the community and supports political strategies to help better the Chicana. Her focus is on improving both the Chicano community and the role of the Chicana within it. The second description is Chicana insurgent feminism. This concentrates on production and reproduction. The Chicana insurgent feminist wants revolutionary change within her community. Her struggles are against racial discrimination, patriarchy, and class exploitation. She is more radical in her action and less compromising in her thinking. The third description is Chicana cultural national feminism. Women who belong under this description identify as feminists but are committed to a cultural nationalist ideology. Although they feel there needs to be changes in gender roles, they feel it is necessary to maintain tradition and the Chicano culture. The Chicana movement can be seen as the Chicana's attempt to finally receive credit and be recognized for their hard work and dedication. The men are always the ones who get credited for everything. They are the ones that hold the highest positions and receive well-paid jobs. This is not true of women and especially not true of Chicana women. They are expected to cook the beans, make tortillas, do clerical work, care for children, and satisfy their men's sexual needs. Many women in the 1960s felt that they were not benefiting from the movimiento, which was the Chicano movement. Chicanas felt that their voices and votes were not being taken into consideration. Many Chicanos felt that these women who wanted to speak out and be heard were vendidas or women's liberators, and the Chicanos thought of feminism as the Anglo trick to divide the Chicano movement. Chicanos and Chicano loyalists often accused Chicanas of being benditas or traitors to the movement and compared to Anglos of the women's liberation movement. They are viewed as being anti-family, anti-cultural, and anti-man. They accuse them of trying to split the movement and not supporting the cause. The Chicano movement often ignored the request of Chicanas to incorporate issues such as abortion and reproductive choice, along with other issues important to Chicanas, into their platform. This backlash from the community forced Chicanas to discuss how Chicana feminism should relate its movement to the rest of the Chicano movement. The Denver Youth Conference was the point in which Chicana feminists realized that they were not only oppressed by the Anglo culture, but that they were oppressed within their own culture as well. Many Chicana newsletters and journals such as Encuentro Femenil and El Grito del Norte began to emerge. The purpose of these organizations was to help unite all Chicana women. They were an attempt for power within the Chicana culture. At this conference, a workshop was held discussing the role of the woman in the movement. The woman of this workshop stated, "It was the consensus of the group that the Chicana woman does not want to be liberated." This was one of the principal actions that sparked the Chicana feminist movement.